Moving on from the first question of logical reasoning drill set number 10 over at lawhub.lsac.org, we come to question 2. We still have a highlight tool ready to go, and we're going to read the question stem first. It reads, which one of the following is an assumption on which the psychologist's argument depends? So if you just got done watching the video for question 1 of drill set 10, that was a sufficient assumption question task, whereby the assumption, if it was assumed true, leads to the conclusion by way of basically strengthening the argument. Here, because we're looking for something that the argument depends on, this is a necessary assumption. So this is going to be more open to the negation test if you're familiar with that tactic, and we might see a variation on the negation test as we work through this example. But as always, we're going to read the psychologist's statements on the left, and we're going to highlight whatever the conclusion is as the first step of engagement. The psychologist says it had long been thought that the sensation of being tickled usually causes laughter only if the person experiencing the sensation actually sees or hears another person present. However, in a study, 93 people of a representative sample of 100 adults were each, while isolated, seen by hidden observers to laugh upon being tickled by a mechanical tickling device. Thus, the long-standing belief about the conditions under which the sensation of being tickled tends to cause laughter is incorrect. So the thus hopefully clues us into the conclusion almost immediately, but we probably need to highlight what the long-standing belief is as well, and that's the first sentence. So the full conclusion is ultimately this idea that it had long been thought that the sensation of being tickled usually causes laughter only if the person experiencing the sensation actually sees or hears another person present. But the long-standing belief that you need to see or hear another person is wrong because of this mechanical tickling device experiment. So we need to find an answer choice that links these ideas and is necessary to believe the conclusion in full. So we're going to go to the answer choices, keeping the highlight tool ready to go, and we're going to identify reasons to eliminate or possibly select if we recognize something that is required by this psychologist's argument to believe that conclusion. Choice A reads, the psychologist's definitions of tickling and laughter are the same as the research subject's definitions. We're not concerned with definitions. There's just like not this new term of tickling. I mean, if anything, we don't really talk about how the people or the subjects define tickling and laughter. It's just not at all relevant. So hopefully you don't overthink something like choice A. Just not the issue at all when we're talking about whether or not people are able to see or hear another person present. And that has nothing to do with the definitions. So then, choice B, at least some of the research subjects who laughed would ordinarily have laughed if knowingly tickled by another person with the same vigor as that with which the mechanical device tickled them. That is a lot of LSAT word salad, part of what can make these kinds of questions very difficult. But if we note details, we can eliminate something like choice B for a very specific reason. Here it says same vigor. We just were told that they were tickled. Vigor is not at issue as soon as we are not concerned with the severity of the tickling involved. We can eliminate B and not go back to it. This is how you're going to work through a more difficult question such as this in a reasonable amount of time. You see vigor, you're like, vigor was not a variable at issue in this argument. Then choice C, the laughter of at least some of the research subjects was not caused simply by their perceiving as comic the idea of being tickled by a mechanical device. Okay, again, delightful LSAT word salad. But here we are talking about laughter, we are talking about research subjects, we are talking about them having been observed to laugh, and we are talking about the mechanical device. Certainly not as clear of a reason to eliminate choice C, I would argue, as opposed to what we highlighted for the reasons to eliminate A and B. Thank you for watching this LSAT explanation video of an official practice problem over at lawhub.lsac.org. If you're enjoying the explanation, please consider becoming a My Guru member to get early and exclusive access to additional explanation problems to help you on your LSAT journey. You can also like the video and subscribe to become notified when additional practice explanation videos are produced by My Guru. But for now, let's get back to this explanation. Then choice D, at least some of the research subjects did not believe that they were being covertly observed by other people. Okay, well, it's not about belief. Very similar with the vigor issue, they had to actually see someone. So whether the people believe there's someone there or not is not the same as actually seeing or hearing a person. So again, great reason to eliminate choice D. Don't overthink it. Be like, the belief doesn't matter. They had to actually see or hear another person present. Then, choice E, the mechanical device approximated human tickling so well that in the absence of visually or auditorily perceiving the difference, the research subjects would not have known the difference. Well, if we were talking about vigor as not being an issue in choice B, the approximation of how well the machine was able to duplicate human tickling, also not at issue. So we can eliminate choice E for that reason. And on the exam, we might select choice C at this moment without committing to the negation test because there's a definite reason for eliminating A, B, D, and E. But let's consider an actual quantitative negation here. And it's a weird one to be certain, but hopefully it helps you understand how this argument is working and why C is necessary. So the laughter of at least some. Well, the technical opposite of at least some is going to be none. So we'll think about this and say the laughter of none of the research subjects was not caused by their perceiving as comic the idea of being tickled by a mechanical device. Well, if none of them were not caused by the comic idea, then all of them were actually laughing at the idea of being tickled by the device, not by the actual tickling itself. It's a weird negation because you actually have a double negative here. And if any of you speak a little bit of a Latin language, that might help because Latin languages allow double negatives just from a language perspective, in a way that English doesn't necessarily. But because if we say none had not caused this, then the opposite would be all of it was caused by the comic idea of being tickled by a mechanical device, which would render the conclusion completely illogical. And for that reason, choice C is the correct answer for number 2.